took Mum to the hospital today. Got there 3/4 of an hour earlier than she needed, but she always wants to get places earlier, and I didn't stay. We were able to park right outside, carried in her case. She logged in at the reception and went to sit to wait for what did he call it? Induction, or I don't know, where they bring you in to they book you in properly. I didn't wait. Mum sat down, I put her case down, said, okay, I'm not going to wait, see you when you're bagless. Had to repeat it, she didn't hear what I said, and I just left. I was in such a resistive state. I just wanted it to begin. I just wanted her to go. I know that she wants this, that she wants her bag reversed, and she deserves to have it because it will improve her quality of life rather than focusing on quantity. This is about quality, and so whatever time she has left, she doesn't have to wear this horrible bag that leaks and bursts, and she's put up with it a lot. So I completely support her idea of getting this done and focusing on doing this. And yet this will be, she has been in hospital for 3 days before while I've been here. This might be 4 days, I don't know. But I really needed it. I really needed to have this space to just do it my way, have the light how I want it, have the sounds how I want it, cook when I want, do it all the way that I want to do it without anybody else having to be considered or anybody else interfering. I can't put anything down if Mum is here, otherwise she either puts it away, throws it away, moves it. She feels she's got to have a say in everything I do, unless I keep her out of things. So I don't include her, I don't tell her what's going on for me. I spend most of my time away from her, apart from her, and when I'm in my room, my door is locked. She can't come in. No suddenly walking in talking to me. She has to, if she's going to, she has to stand outside the door. And for some reason that makes me feel better. There has been a certain anxiety about having my boundaries of when I'm on my own. I need to feel like I'm on my own, and that's helped. The last time I had this experience, and I had it for months and months and months, was when I lived in the van. And when I closed the door and pulled the blinds down and settled down to either watch teaching or listen to some teaching or watch something or go into the altered state or write something, I knew that I wouldn't be disturbed. I was on my own. No one would be coming anywhere near me, especially as the blinds were down. Sometimes I would write with the blinds up. I liked to look out of the windows. I liked the view of where I was parked. But often I wanted total and complete isolation. And I wasn't there. I didn't exist, and I wanted to experience that. And actually, I came to prefer it. I wanted it, and I did that kind of thing every day, practiced it day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. And it's not since then that I've actually had the opportunity to feel like I'm on my own. Maybe a bit different after the operation, because Mum, there will be recovery time, and I might feel like if she's not able to, or it hurts her to move, I'll help her a bit more. But otherwise, if she recovers, when she gets back to her normal, I'm doing everything independent, strong self, I can just let her go. I don't think she likes it, but there's no other choice, because I can't do it the way she wants it done. The only person who can do it that way is her. I can help, of course, but I have to do it the way I do it. I'm not a child. I don't need directing. I don't need to be told what to do or checked on what I'm doing. So I'd rather not do that. And I haven't been. And it's been okay for me, because I recognize that this build-up of resistance, this build-up of suppression, of not feeling that I can express myself clearly, naturally, spontaneously, authentically around her, makes me feel blocked, gives me a feeling of blockage. Sometimes I don't notice, I just get depressed from it. And it's only when I finally allow myself to talk about it. When the weather was warm, I would walk off into the fields and record an MP3 talking. I prefer to do that. It's easy. I'm not having to be aware of being visually watched, and I have to look at the camera, and there's only a finite amount of space of recording, and the longer it goes on for, the huge amount of file it is. Whereas an audio file, while admittedly a lot is missing, face and eyes and body language and smile and whatever, which I think is important, I can do it with my eyes closed. I can do it at night in the dark, spontaneously. I don't have to do anything but reach for it, press record, put it on my chest, and just start talking quietly. But I don't share those. It's not really practical to share those. So that's why I'm doing this recording, this video recording. I couldn't wait to let her go. I had to walk out. There's no hug, no affection. I just don't do that with her. I have to be honest and real, and I don't feel it right now. So I can't, nor would I try to make it look like I do. I have to be real, and it's just something that's happened over the months. I'm just going to leave her to it, and I need this space. I just need to not have her in my life for a bit. I'll be okay when she comes back. Probably by the time she does, I might even be missing her. Look, I'll be okay, looking forward to having her come back, and hopefully everything is successful in the way she wants it to be. But right now, there is no mum. There is no Denise. She's doing her thing. I'm doing my thing. And I want to be completely cut off. My phone is off. Her phone, the landline, is unplugged. The doorbell is off. It's a wireless doorbell. That's off. There's nobody needing to ring the bell. Nobody's coming for me. I don't want to be disturbed. There's so much value in not having to accommodate anybody else, because that's what I do. Even though I spend most of my time in my room and earplugs in or headphones on and reading or watching or writing, and I've even got noise cancelling headphones, so I can literally eliminate her presence outside my room, and I begin to feel like I'm back in the van. It's a bigger van. It's much more comfortable. I don't have to make the bed and put it away every day, and I have access to a toilet and a shower, and there's even a fridge and a cooker, and so it's a much more civilized way of van living, and I don't have to deal with where I'm going to be parked and whether or not I'm allowed to be there. But I know that I am avoiding. I know that I am hiding and escaping and retreating. Even when I go out, when I walk, especially if I walk into town. But actually, because the weather is so wet and muddy, I don't walk into the fields in my usual way. I have to go around the roads to avoid it. Earplugs are in from the get-go, wherever I go, whenever I go out. And I need the attenuation of the sound. I need to control the sensory input so that I can stay internal and focus on what it is I'm looking at or what I'm feeling, explore things, sometimes requiring me to start recording them as I'm walking. So this, in a sense, is a kind of just a rambling personal journal until such time as I get an inspiration. I have a few ideas about what I would like to talk about, but just to sort of start talking about something that's not personal, that's more spiritual in a sense. I can't just do spontaneously. And funny, as I was thinking about spiritual, I remember the idea, I was talking with my sister yesterday about there is a Hare Krishna temple 3 or 4 miles walk away from here that I know where. I've passed a couple of times in the car. And I have a feeling I would like to walk there and see what happens when I turn up. See if I can go in, see if I can sit. I don't know. Even though there are 2 synagogues within 50 yards, 100 yards either way of where I am. And my first thought was, well, path of least resistance, being Jewish, maybe I should approach the rabbi. Maybe I need some kind of community. And yet something about it didn't feel right. Yet the moment I was reminded of the Hare Krishna temple, and it would have been the same if there had been a mosque or some other Judeo-Christian group, I would have felt like, yeah, I'll go check them out. Having spent time in India, I felt most comfortable. I feel most comfortable around that kind of spirituality, even though I don't know what the Hare Krishna thing is. The dancing, singing, happiness sounds good if you get there, but really what I'm looking for is somewhere that, I don't know. Well, I don't know actually. It's just to take a walk, to do a walk I haven't walked before, a 3-4 mile walk, so a 6-8 mile round trip. Might turn up then, it's all closed. If there was a mosque that I could walk to, I'm sure I would go there. Just as it's an idea that I hadn't really explored. I had been looking to see if I might talk to a medical professional, just to see what would happen if I start to reveal some of the things I've experienced, the thoughts I have, the insights, the ideas that come to me. But really, it does make more sense to speak to some kind of spiritual person, because there's too much of that I am connected to, that I'm not really doing anything about. I'm not online, I'm not posting, I'm not going on forums, while I am looking at YouTube videos, and there are a few spiritual ones I look at, less so now. I don't really need the teaching, as it were, only sometimes the vibration, the feeling, to be reminded of the presence, the stillness, in focusing on something that has a higher vibration, a higher state of being attached to it. But I don't just want to waffle, If I'm making a video which can be seen by others, you can watch, you might be watching, then there's got to be something about it that's interesting. It can't just be for people who might have known me or thought they knew me, and now watching this they'll really understand more about who I am, where for so long I just don't talk about myself. I just don't show myself. I keep myself hidden. I stay quiet. I avoid dealing with what I find to be a world I can't relate to, that I'm just operating on a different frequency. And I don't want to be a judgmental person. I don't want to keep seeing things that my mum does, her friends, my mum in particular, because she's the one I'm around the most. So while I don't see her much, admittedly, I am aware of her far more than she realizes. And of course I do see the way that she is, and as she fades, as old age takes over, she begins to lose some of her faculties and so on. It's a slow process, it's not a quick one, and I don't see dementia arising or anything like that. She's just old. But yet the way she does things, the way she's always done those things, the way she thinks very narrow-mindedly about so many things, I can't change her. I can't even give her something that she can think about which changes her. I have spoken to her a few times in the moment. It doesn't always come out the best way because I'm not very open to her, but there have been a couple of moments when I find myself talking to her like I might talk to anyone that I care about, and even get to feel like I'm heard. But it doesn't last long. I don't feel comfortable to stay too long. She doesn't want that in many ways. And so I'm not sure, even though she can make me feel like she gets it, and yes, I don't know whether she's just showing me what she thinks I want to hear and see. Because nothing really changes. I don't think she's really able to. She's just the way she is. And so when I got to the place where I could accept that difference without feeling like there has to be one unified way of being. She can't understand how I do things. She doesn't know where it comes from. She hasn't studied and practiced what I have and done. She hasn't lived my life. So I can't expect her to even understand what I think are clearly expressed concepts that I just understand really well. For her, for others, they have their own way of seeing things, and it's not for me to judge that. It's not for me to decide. If I don't see the way I think it ought to look, then there's something wrong and I've got to do something about it. It took me a while to come to realize that actually whatever wisdom or insight I might be able to bring to a situation to somehow make it better or easier, just like in most situations for people, we have to find it ourselves. We have to realize things through experience. Sometimes we have to take a path that's not necessarily the best one to come to understand that. I feel like I can shift into a different way of seeing things because I'm generally open to receiving wisdom, to hearing the words of others that can make sense to me, that I just didn't think about that. It just didn't occur to me. Where for them it seems straightforward and normal. And for me it's almost something I can't even imagine and have to then start to look at. Just like there are things that I can do that I find quite easy that they can't do. And so as a result of that, to avoid clashing and confrontation, I chose to stop revealing it, to stop showing it, so that to essentially I don't have it. I'm not a person who can say things like that. I'm in a closed state. I'm not open. So nothing is flowing through, not directly, not to others. Sometimes, yes, to my sister, sometimes to writing, sometimes to audio recording. The pipe opens and it flows, but not to my mum, not around her, not to my family, not around them. I don't really see them. They seem to be from another planet or as they would see it. I do. And I'm okay with that because I'm not trying to be accepted. I'm not looking for them to know me so that they can accept me, so that they can bring me into the fold, so I can have them as my family. No, because I can't do it the way they do it, nor would I try to. It isn't my way. It's not my preferred way of being. And I can't invalidate the way they do it just because it isn't the way I do it. They invalidate the way I do it because they don't understand it, and they expect everybody to do it the way they do it, whatever that is. So they naturally invalidate me. They just see me as off. Someone who doesn't want to get involved, someone who doesn't care, someone who isn't interested, someone who is indifferent. It does look like that, I understand that, and I'm okay with it looking like that because some of the time that's true. I'm not interested in what they're doing. I don't need to know their details. I'm not concerned with their life. I'm living a separate life, and so are they. And for the vast majority of it, since I was 17, 18, 19, 20, I haven't spent any time around them. The vast majority of my life I haven't seen them or spoken to them or thought about them. They are technically still my family. My sister is still my sister. My cousin Lisa has become my cousin Lisa. I didn't really imagine that I would have a cousin. I would have a connection with, who I could talk to and who I got on with. And I like that. It's nice to have somebody. I can't do and don't do virtual relationships, virtual connections, so I don't talk to anybody online. And that's made a difference, and it's making a difference. That's only happened in the last 6 weeks or so that I've stopped talking completely online. But I think maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, 3 or 4 months, 6 months, if that's what happens, it will bring me very much into this present. And my intention is, when Mum comes back from having the operation and she'll need to recover, she might be in pain and she might be a little weaker, I'm going to try to help a bit more. I'm going to use that as an opportunity to be around her a little bit more, like I used to be when I first got here, before all of this issue forced me, in a sense, to choose to detach, to remain objective, to observe it rather than participate in it. It is my natural way. It's the way I prefer, unless I am able to offer love, but it has to be in a way that doesn't create attachment. I can't take over. I don't want to generate expectation. I just want to be able to spontaneously give of myself, either action or word, and when that's finished, walk away without being pulled back, without feeling obligated, without generating bad feeling if I'm not there. Just doing it the way that I have to do it. Anything else I can do for a while. Compromise is always possible, but eventually it becomes too much. I need to stop compromising. I have to experience it the way I need to do it the way I need to. And if that means alone, because no one else can work with that or accept it, so be it. It's where I end up. I don't necessarily want to be alone all the time. I do like company. I do like to be around people, even if I'm not interacting with them, even if they don't know me. Just to sort of be in the area, to be around people who are just going about their business. I don't exist for them. I'm sitting on a bench or sitting somewhere and just looking and just watching and just being present. Sometimes it's nice to be in the room with people I do know who are talking to each other, but they're not talking to me and I'm not participating in the conversation, and that can feel interesting for me, not doing it, having not done it for ages. especially if there's somebody there I like to listen to or I don't mind hearing. But really, if I do talk, when I talk to myself, just like any nutcase would. I do it outside, but I'm talking into a microphone. I do talk sometimes without recording myself, especially if I haven't brought it, and I just find myself talking and then realise, wait a minute, if I'm going to talk about this stuff, I should record it, and if I have the recorder, I'll start it. But I do sometimes do it the traditional nutcase way, where you're just talking out loud in the street, but then I'm not doing it walking in the street. If I'm walking in the street, if I'm going shopping and cars are passing me and people, I've got earplugs in, I'm not talking out loud. Not really. It doesn't really happen. It's too restricting, and it's not a good recording environment. I need some quiet or natural sounds, a little quiet music perhaps in the background if it happens to be there. But otherwise, even just a little wind can mess with the microphone and make it not pleasant to listen to. And I get out some of my best thoughts when I'm talking to myself. I discover what it is I know when I actually start to talk about it. I didn't realise I knew that until I talked about it. I didn't realise that's what it meant until I talked about it. So it's good for me. It feels sometimes like confession, like I imagine the idea behind the Catholics going to sit in the box and without all the religious stuff attached to it, just if they're able to, honestly getting off their chest, not their sins, but just stuff that they're having, issues that they're having, that one might, talk to a therapist or a psychologist about, that kind of thing, as a way of bringing it into focus to understand it a bit better, or let it go, to realise that actually it's not needed, don't need to hold on to that idea, those beliefs, that thought, let it go. I have thought about going into confession once or twice while sitting in a Catholic church. I came close to it once. I didn't. I don't know. Something told me it wouldn't achieve what it was I was looking for. Just sitting quietly made more sense. But still, the idea of talking like that doesn't faze me. I would be okay with it. I would talk far too long. I usually do. I had a conversation with my sister on the phone the other day. Yesterday, I think it was. I did most of the talking. It was almost 2 hours we were on the phone. Admittedly, I don't call her very often. We hadn't spoken for 6 weeks or something, so it was all right. But she's the only one I could even remotely do that to. No one else would have the time. No one else would be just sitting quietly or allow me to talk, and she's very good at doing that. Many times she would be working, it wouldn't have worked anyway. I just knew she would be around, and I was right. I have thought about leaving. If I had any idea where I might go, it could be easy for me to decide that my sense of well-being matters far more than the challenge of living here, because I realise in many ways the resistance I feel, even though it's overwhelming me a bit now, I have been using it as a kind of, it's given me energy to create an isolated space, a detached space for me to explore my inner world in a way that can only be done when one is alone, not disturbed, no responsibilities, no expectations, pretty much. Just when I close the door, I can do and spend as much time as I want on this thing. It's a luxury that isn't easy to find. I had it in the van, but around other people, in any other situation, it's very difficult to find. I'm supported by her. I don't have to deal with material things. I live in her home. She pays all the bills and deals with everything materially like she always does, leaving me free to do this. The price is to be here and deal with her and see her and help her and support her. And I have been reluctant to give her anything but the barest minimum, because the resistive state closes me down, and I don't feel good. I don't feel like I'm good to be able to care and help, but I just can't do it like that. I feel like I don't want to do it like that, that actually I need to let people do it themselves. You know, I can suggest, here's a thought, here's an idea, but it's not, I don't expect it to be taken or followed. It's just, here's a gift. Do with it what you will. Recognize it as having value, use it. Don't think it's just rubbish or a waste of time, throw it away. The gift is still given. I still felt to say it, and I was able to. But if I don't, then you have to figure it out. You've got to find your own way. So I'm no longer judging. I'm no longer feeling like I got to say something. I've got to change things. There was a time in my life where I experienced being looked up to. People would come to me, talk to me, listen to what I had to say, be helped. And it made me feel good to do so. It made me feel like I was doing the thing I was supposed to do. It just felt right to be able to offer this and give this in a way that was able to be received. Trouble is, though, my ego got corrupted by it. You get used to feeling like that. You get used to having your thoughts, your ideas be heard, be acted on. And when I became a partner and then a father, I realized that while the love of a father seemed to be the highest expression of love I had found so far, having my ideas be what we did for the vast majority of the time was no good for me. It was just no good for me. The ego took that and inflated from it, became important, self-important. It wasn't a good place for me to be. It eventually corrupted what was said, because I was always very careful to make sure that what I was saying was always for their best interest and not for mine. It wasn't about manipulating people into getting an advantage. But it did happen, because it's easy to say things that one can just sort of nudge it to the left or nudge it to the right. It's not noticed. Who knows what I would have said if I wasn't. And it's almost not premeditated. It just happens in the moment. But I know that I have nudged something in my direction, not been 100% have integrity for giving, a pure unconditional giving, which to me is the point of that kind of thing. So I kind of had to let it go. It had to go from me. I had to go back to the drawing board, go back to zero, become nothing again. Because if I think I'm something, if I know something, if I've got something to say, then that's a state of ego, a person, a construct, a personality structure that has to be overcome. It is a limitation. It will eventually, if not quickly, but certainly at some point, limit my ability to express my true self. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what this is supposed to be about. It's not a play. I'm not looking for recognition or attention or adulation. I'm not looking for laughs, although I don't mind them. I'm not looking to be supported or to be looked after or to be cared about or to be loved. I'm not looking for those things. That's not the reason behind it, even though there are often many times when, without looking for it, in receiving it, because something comes back that actually makes me feel something that is powerful, maybe more so because I wasn't trying to find it, it actually is wonderful. It's very lovely. It really moves me, and it can change me because it comes unexpectedly. I'm not expecting to feel like this. I'm just doing what it is I do. And when I'm finished, when it's done, when it stops, moving on to the next thing. Not dwelling on how wonderful I was, or what I did. I really helped them. That's ego again. That's person. Yes, sometimes I can forget about me altogether. It's like I don't exist. When I walk about, and I often sit in the cemetery, I like it there. It's the quietest, most peaceful place where few people come, and it's just, I bring a cushion and sit on a bench, and I can, in the summer, I could be there for ages. Just having space to sit and think, to look, to sometimes go over to the graves and see who's there, stand there and feel it for a moment. These are the things I choose to do. And while I have taken one person there, sat on the bench with them for 15-20 minutes, again it was done in silence, because it's not a place you go to have a conversation, I don't think. And because it's a special place for me, where especially in the first sort of 2, 3, 4 months, when I discovered it, because it took me a while to realize that I could go there, I'd walked past it many, many times, but never thought to go in and sit down, and then discovered how wonderful it was to do that. It's given me the opportunity to let go of, to look at issues. I have talked there. I've made recordings there spontaneously, because I'm not around people, and often I'm there completely alone. Very great to start talking in a situation where I'm not going to be disturbed. I don't have to pause it when I'm walking past others, or moderate what it is I say if I feel like I'm being overheard. I know that if I'm feeling like that, which is a little paranoid, it's a little affected by external things, I'm not in the right state. I'm not in the right place to speak, because when I am, it doesn't matter if someone hears. In fact, it's okay that they hear. In fact, it would be nice if they listened, because I know that what's being said is authentic and real, and people like authentic and real. There's not enough of it around. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's real, what's not real. It's really important. We're trying to trust. We live in a society, a system, a political system, where we're being asked to trust people to represent us, and time after time after time they let us down. They show themselves to be just ordinary, self-serving, egotistical, flawed human beings that we are somehow expecting them to do a job that they're really not cut out to do, and sometimes they're doing things that they're not being open about. Instead of representing us, they're representing themselves or others like them, and the system is corrupt as a result of it. But we're supposed to trust. We must trust these people who represent us, so that we can truly let them do the job we've asked them to do. And they're very good at confusing people into believing that what they're telling them is true, that they're being authentic and real, when in fact they're being two-faced and sometimes outright lying. Yet the system is so well designed that whomever we choose, whoever people vote for, whichever face, suit, party, promise has been revealed, it's the same thing all over again every time. We need a new system. I think we could find a new system, but the system is very good at making people feel like that there is nothing else but it. Nothing else will do. It gives, by focusing and spending so much time watching the news, reading the newspapers, being told things that aren't necessarily true. They're often opinion wrapped up in truth clothing, conjecture, assumption, and we don't notice. So how do you know what's true and what's not true? So it has to become very real. It's very important. Oh, what they've got to say, it's very important. And you watch them. You might criticize them, you might laugh, you might shout at the screen, but you still accept their authority over you. No one has authority over you. If the people that we ask to organize things so that we can do what we want to do better, and really government is about making sure that the roads are drivable and street lights and bins get collected and hospitals are built and maintained, and the infrastructure, that's what the government is about. And the way that the people go about their law-abiding business, caring and considering everybody else's right to do exactly the same thing, should have the lightest touch from that system that we call government. Yet we know that's not true. Often government is so intertwined with ordinary people going about their ordinary business that they have to ask permission, that there are laws and rules that we are supposed to, through our own conscience and right ways of doing things, which we all have when given the opportunity and the trust, are overbearing, like some nanny state, watching over everybody, looking at everybody, monitoring everybody, afraid that if they don't do that at all times, they'll lose control and anarchy will result. Nothing wrong with a bit of anarchy. I don't mean rioting. Anarchy just means to me just doing it yourself, your way, what feels right for you, and bearing in mind that everybody else has the right to feel that way too. And somehow we dance and glide, and it's an orchestration where it all can work together. People have to be trusted, and those that we ask to represent us to do the things that we need a system of representatives to do it to the best of their ability. And if they make mistakes, which they might because they're only human, admit them, be open, clear, and honest. Imagine what a society we would have if we had people who represented us who we truly trusted. We just, there was no question that they were going to do the job to the best of their ability on our behalf. And especially if they've never done it before. You see, it's one thing to have a few politicians who perhaps have never worked in the real world be presented to us as the candidates we can choose from. And then we figure out, oh, this one's better than this one. I like what they say. Oh, I don't like what she wears. It becomes, in a sense, a personality thing, when in fact, actually, you're just voting for a party. The party chooses its leader. It's not like the American system here, where we're not voting for the person to be Prime Minister, but that's how people mostly do it. If they like the person, they're more likely to vote for them than if they didn't, even if they like the policies of the party. So what if we decided we did something like a king system, not based on what's in place now. From this point forward, we decide through an appropriate means, which I could talk about after perhaps, as I have an idea for that, who we'd like to have a go at doing this job. Someone who wasn't necessarily looking to do this kind of work at all, but someone who we trust, whose heart is in the right place, who's smart and intelligent and experienced and different, has a good sense of humour, has experienced life, has struggled, and we just like. And we vote for one of those people. We have an opportunity to register our preference about somebody we would just like to have a go, because they can't do it any worse. Just because they're not a professional politician doesn't mean that they won't be able to do great things. The infrastructure of the system is the civil service, and that continues irrespective of which party, which people run the country. The infrastructure is set up to do that. Obviously, the politicians, the heads of government have a say, have an influence about it, but the vast majority of the stuff that just has to be done to make it work still gets done. So we could vote for people like stand-up comedians, for example, Billy Connolly, Eddie Izzard, or just people that we respect. Stephen Fry. I'd even quite like to see Ricky Gervais have some say in the policies of this country. What I mean is that while they might be, you either like them or you don't like them, one of the things about people who stand up and say it and talk about it and are talented and caring and loving is that they're less likely to be, in fact, they're probably unlikely to be affected by big business or some other wealthy situation where they've had to take money from them or they've been supported by them and or are connected in a secret way and they're sort of self-serving. These people are not. They're successful in their own right and would bring a unique perspective to what it is that would work best for us, because they are us, they've come from us, they've lived with us, they observe us, they can laugh about us, they don't take themselves seriously, and they're clever people, very good, clever people. So it's not just one of these people, but several of them, a cabinet of stand-up comedians that we might choose. I know that I could easily choose Eddie Izzard or Billy Connolly or Rowan Atkinson, Sting, just people that, names off the top of my head, there are many of them that would be, let him have a go. Sure, because I know that guy's a good guy and he's got good heart and let's see what he does, have a say, give it a go. But we can trust them. Many already love them, so that they do it in a completely open and transparent way, because it's maybe a camera crew follows them around and records their activities as they go about figuring out how to do the job. But they've got advisors around them. The civil service will be able to help them understand how the structure works, but they can ensure that what the policies that are put forward, the things that get voted on in Parliament, are the real important things that matter to the people, making sure that they have a good NHS, making sure that there's good education for everybody, not just those with money. These things are important. This is the future of our society, our country, but really as a planet. We have to ensure that, and we're capable of making this happen because technology and the ability to create infrastructure, there doesn't have to be anybody on this planet who can't have access to the finest healthcare and education, to have somewhere good to live with clean water and a way of growing food, or having access to good organic foods that are either free or very cheap. Supporting the planet as a whole rather than raping it and destroying it for the greedy few, for the wealthy who want to get richer and consuming things that don't need to be consumed, making things that don't need to be made, all to make money. This beautiful planet that we live on, and the vast diversity of people from all over the world, different, you don't even have to go too far to hear people speaking with a different accent. Different cultures, different values, different feelings. Having lived in India, having lived in Israel, having been to places, it feels different. It's not just the people. There's something different about the way it feels to be in a completely different culture. To discover that everybody is doing it the same way. We all have the same core needs, core ideas. We want to be loved and to love, to have friendship and to work and be successful, to have the money thing that we need to exchange, to live a life that has joy and fun. To create, to invent, to make, to share. We all want to do that. We need to be able to let go of worrying about, or the need to be concerned about, who takes care of the political stuff, who takes care of the things that are bigger, that free us to be able to have more time, to spend time with family and friends, to do the things we love to do, to have enough money to do it and time to do it, to do the work that we love, the work that we enjoy, to feel rewarded and appreciated. Can you imagine a society like that? I think it will happen. It's just everything moves very slowly. Everything changes very slowly. It's always changing, but sometimes it's hard to see it. Like you don't notice your child has grown 4 inches until someone who hasn't seen them for ages points it out. The change is happening. It is happening faster than it has. And people all over the world, I mean, the media tends to portray the negative. It doesn't focus, it doesn't really show much of the positive. How much people do, how loving and caring, and it tends to make people feel afraid, it means it's easier to control people who feel afraid, who feel like they have to be suspicious, must lock my door just in case. Why? You live amongst people, don't you trust them? They're your neighbours. Why don't you show them that you trust them by not believing that the moment you leave your house they're coming in to help themselves? People are good, and they're as good as you are. It's only that you imagine that they're not because you believe the stories, often they're not even true, about things that take place in other worlds. Because this is not one world. We live on one planet, but we experience things so differently just by how we've been brought up and who we've been around and what we've done, that we perceive so differently that we can't think about changing the world. We just have to realize that actually I'm good, you're good, she's good. Yes, we know people do make bad choices and have experiences that we think are bad, that are crimes, which are breaking the laws and the rules, the beliefs of society. But not all societies have the same rules. Some things you can do in one place that in another place it's against the law. So these things are arbitrary and decided upon by other people. Those decisions to do that form a weight around people's necks so that they become essentially enslaved by it because they have power to enforce these things. You know, if I don't go out very often and kill people, but I don't do it because I'm afraid that if I do, I'll be arrested and imprisoned, or depending on where I am, perhaps put to death. I do it because I don't do it because it isn't something I choose to do. I don't feel I have a right to take the life of another human being. It doesn't ever occur to me, oh, I could kill you, or maybe I should kill you. Should I kill you today? No, it's not something that I have within me. That's not what goes on. But it looks like I abide by the law by not killing anybody because I'm told, thou shalt not kill. You must not kill. That is the law. And that's quite an extreme example. Let's say I don't park my car on the right side of the road. You know, in America, in my experience, everybody parks in the direction that they're facing. Even if there's a space on the other side of the road, as they're coming up to it, they have to go forward, they've got to do a return, they've got to come back. Here in the UK, we park both sides of the road facing both directions. So let's say in America, I decided, because I did think about it, but to park in the opposite direction. I'd probably be fined if somebody saw it. It would be a terrible thing because it would stand out amongst everybody. But what's wrong with it? How is it we can do it perfectly well here, make a decision, as long as we're not blocking anybody in or putting ourselves in a nuisance way? We've considered where we're parking. It's a perfectly acceptable parking space. It doesn't matter which direction we put the car in, yet it does in America. So these are arbitrary things that actually, because you have to abide by the decisions made by some group of people somewhere at some time, you're not free. You're not free to do it the way that you feel spontaneously in that moment, taking responsibility for yourself and being encouraged to, rather than being stopped from. Yes, some people will always attempt to take advantage of things like that. But you'd be surprised that if the majority of people around you are acting with integrity, it's more likely so will they. You know, when there's been a riot in the past and people have looted, it doesn't just start happening the moment that there's a demonstration. All it takes is a few people, and other people join in because they feel like they can do that now. They've never done it before. What must it feel like to be able to feel comfortable to break into a place, grab something you don't need, and take off with it just like everybody else is doing, and you've got something for nothing, and you've got a tremendous buzz from having an experience you would never do on your own just out of the blue. So if the majority of people are acting in a kind and considerate and conscientious way, the majority of people will. We have to put out what we want to experience. We have to show, we have to practice it, we have to practice what we would like to see. We can't just expect it to change. It needs to change. Somebody needs to change things. Well, you're somebody. You start with you. Change something. I used to, when I was in America, I house sat for about a month. And when I would come and go, I'd just leave the door unlocked. In America, leave the door unlocked. Come and go. I mean, it's in an apartment building where she knows her neighbours and they're good people. So why do you lock your door? What are you afraid of? So I would leave it unlocked and just go and come back, and it's much easier not to have to fiddle around with keys. You can just walk in and walk out. It's not the first time I've done that, and I used to do that in the van as well. To let go of feeling like you have to protect your belongings from some idea that you don't want to happen, that would be too horrible. But what about trusting your neighbours? So you could start to leave your door open. You don't have to tell everybody, especially in America. 99.999% of the people will assume your door is locked anyway. So it matters not. No one's going to be trying the door. It's locked to them. But letting it go by not having to fear the neighbours and or even just fear that somebody, they will break in, they will immediately know that I've not locked the door and come and sends out a signal that makes it easier to accept neighbours and to trust people and to let people come and go. I know somebody who leaves her door open all the time in her apartment and encourages it to be used when she's away. That's how open you can be without being concerned with protecting your things. Yes, we know that people do take other people's things, and when it's reported, it scares people. Got to be careful, better lock that window. That's how I used to find it here. My mum would lock all the windows, even if she was just walking round the corner. And this is a nice neighbourhood. To go to the doctor across the road, she'd have to close all the windows first. It's the height of summer. Just leave them open. Even leave the door open. It doesn't matter. Imagine living in a society where you do that. Remember how people would say, oh yeah, back in the 50s and 60s or whatever, we never used to lock our doors and kids would play in the street. What's changed? We're still the same people. There's maybe more of us, but we're still the same people. That freedom to let things happen, to trust, not to be... When I was a kid, I'd go off, no one would know where I was. I'd be gone for hours, no mobile phone. You don't think about the need to be in contact. You just get used to, and I used to play by myself most of the time, so you get used to being alone and being comfortable with it. Nowadays, well, where people are alone physically when they're doing certain things, they've got their phone with them. They've always got everybody with them. Messages come in at any moment. They can include, send a picture, take a phone. So you're never really alone. You're always connected, which is very good in many ways. I like it. I think it's a wonderful thing. But what have we lost by not being able to understand solitude and truly experience it? Because who turns their phone off? Who turns it off? I'm turning my phone off now. Very few people. Most people not only have it on all the time, but they have it so close to them, sometimes held in the hand. It's always close by. It's the precious. This phone, pick it up, check it out. Every so often, oh yes. It's like so important, and a message comes in, oh, it's so important. So that you're never really alone. You never get to have that aloneness. I think it's really important. Well, I didn't think I would be expecting to express that. I don't know if this is a single recording or it has to be snippetized. I don't know. Everybody feels like they've got something to say. Everyone's got an opinion, a unique opinion technically, but everyone feels like they have an opinion, a presence, a perspective, and the right to say it. And we have social media platforms, YouTube, where you can get to do that. You can inform and include and entertain and educate and just share the sheer joy of what it is you do whenever you feel like you want to do it. Everyone has the opportunity to do that. You just need a basic little recording device, a little computer perhaps, and access to the internet. A very great many people do have that these days. So, you know, I'm just another voice out there, another talking head who has sometimes feels like he's got something to say or likes the sound of his own voice when saying it. I mean, I feel like, because I don't really talk like this, I don't sit with people and have conversations, and if I do, the feeling, the energy that I feel right now and how it feels to say this isn't there. I feel different. There seems to be more energy, or it comes out faster or slower, or it's hard to explain, but it is different. And it is different in a way that makes me feel I'm not truly authentic. I have to find my voice, and I've got to practice using it in order to do so. I would find it very interesting to have the opportunity one day to do this kind of talking with people listening, who've chosen to listen. It may not be pure monologue, definitely questions, answers, comments, reactions, responses, spontaneous stuff makes sense. So it's sort of like a stand-up, but not in the sense of there to make you laugh, but there would be laughter because I like making people laugh. I would like to make you laugh. I make myself laugh all the time. And sometimes I imagine making someone laugh with the thing that has just made me laugh. But I don't have this overriding need to stand up in front of people and get something from them that I felt was missing. Even though perhaps something is missing, and if I was to get that from you, I might realize it was missing and be better as a result. But really I don't look for that. I can't have that as a reason to do it. It has to be because in order to speak like this, where I'm just saying it free and clear, I can't do so if I can be affected by what might happen just out there. I've done this before many years ago where I thought I was speaking free and clear in a public way, only to be affected by somebody doing or saying something which immediately changed everything. I couldn't hold myself in place, as it were. It wasn't solid enough. It was a construct that somehow was flowing out, but it was definitely vulnerable and fragile. It wasn't solid. It wasn't solid. To have a true voice, I've got to use it, and I've got to use it in a way that feels true, which means it's just there naturally, more and more and more. Because I spend so much, or have spent so much time inside my head, hearing the voice in there, but not actually vibrating it out, not actually spelling it out, manifesting through the voice, change in idea, change in possibility, by saying something to someone at the right moment, in the right way, to do that. I remember 25, 30 years ago having that voice, using a voice like that, saying things that gave me authority because what was being said was good. I remember that took place. I wrote about it as well. But that person who spoke with that voice, it's connected to this voice, but it isn't this voice. I don't remember that voice. I don't carry a memory of that, only of having been him, having experienced that voice as him. But now I'm me, this me, and I've been inside, and I'm trying to come out. It's time to come out of the closet. And the idea is that these videos is a way for me to do something like that, for now. When I eventually find a way to upload it, to share it, I have to go somewhere, some other place, to be able to access the internet fast enough to get things up. So by being here in a place where it's too slow, it creates a natural barrier. It creates a kind of, okay, no matter what you feel, there has to be a pause. There has to be a period of time, a bit of space, where the idea of it can be considered, perhaps even reviewed, where you can look at it, I can think about it, I feel differently about it tomorrow. There's time for me to decide if this is what I really want to share. Whereas if I get excited about having recorded it and I can just, at the flick of a button, send it up to the cloud, I might do so and then come to regret it, then think, maybe I was a bit hasty. I don't know. In a way, I don't want to get involved in deciding things like that. I don't want to be the censor of it. I'm not censoring what I'm saying. I can't see myself, or basically I can't see myself in the screen, because without my glasses, it's just a complete blur. So it's easier, it's not distracting for me to get caught in looking at myself, looking at me. I'm just keeping my eyes focused on where the camera is, which when I look at it, I think, because when I look at somebody talking to me that way, I feel more engaged. Not that they look at me continuously in some sort of way, but it feels like I'm really speaking to you. They're really speaking to me. And so maybe you'd want to see the whole thing, or maybe the whole thing should be seen in its entirety. So like the whole thing, not polish it, not edit it, not take out the bits, not suddenly see a cut. I find that odd sometimes when I'm watching somebody just give a 5 to 7 minute talk about something, and they're saying very high level, high-minded things, and there's cuts. There's those bits, they weren't good enough. What happened? Did the phone ring? Did the water fall over? Or did you change your mind about wanting to say it like that? Or you got, what was it? It creates a certain duality for me, where in that moment there was only singularity. I was just with you, listening to what you were saying, and it was a continuous piece. So in a way, I don't want to edit this. I know that it might have stuff in it that perhaps could have been, but I think that reason, or maybe should have been, but I think for that reason alone, if this is about you knowing me, if I'm doing this because I want you to know me, then you have to see all of it. Because for most of my life, pretty much for most of my life, if not all of my life, the personality the me that I've put out into the world has come through a filter that I control. So I decide what I let out, what I don't, what I say, what I don't, how honest I am. Am I telling the truth? Have I chosen to not tell the truth? What are my motives? How do I say it? I get sort of a say in all of that. But what happens to having that means that actually I'm not authentic, that you don't know me, that I've withheld and held back so much of myself. I forget that the image that I'm putting out, which isn't me, means that the people around me have no idea who I am and have decided who I am just because they feel like they know me based on the experiences they have with me, which differs from who I am inside. And how do I suddenly come to feel like, oh, who I am inside is the real me? Right, I've got to get him out. Yes, but you've just spent your whole life hiding him away. Who's going to listen? Nobody who knows you could easily deal with you suddenly appearing to be somebody else. Well, if I leave, as I did once, and go to a whole new land and turn up around all new people who have no idea who I am, who have no point of reference, who can't connect the dots, they have to just take me as they find me in this moment, as I do them. Ooh, I have the opportunity to be the highest me, the realest me, the best me, and see what happens, because I don't have to have somebody going, hey, you're not like that, you used to do this, you thought like that, who try to bring me back to what they know, because it makes them feel more comfortable. I knew I had to leave to experience the newness in me without being judged, without having to deal with people who remembered me as I used to be, who thought they knew me because so much of me had remained out of sight. So that's why you have to have the whole thing. And maybe if it's boring, if it's difficult, if it's too long to some, they'll turn it off. It's a natural barrier. Not everybody wants this. Not everybody will get this. Not everybody is interested. Too many other things. And it's not that they're wrong. It's not that they're missing out. They're finding their way, their own way, through their own way of doing it. This is not better than them. This is just different. I see everybody out there, many people, thousands of people, having a go at not only doing what they love, but recording it, sharing it. And I think, well, such a lovely idea. Such a wonderful idea. If you do it right and it's done well. The ones I watch, I really enjoy. And I feel like I need to talk. I've got things to say. I can express things in ways that I like, and maybe others might, and see where it goes.